Welcome to the Rink Rap Podcast here on Forever Blueshirts. I am Jim Cerny. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking here on YouTube, the Forever Blueshirts YouTube page. Also, for following us on the audio versions where you can, of course, get your podcasts. We're available everywhere and really, really appreciative of your support. As we head into another crucial week of New York Rangers hockey. But before we get to that, happy MLB Opening Day, at least for all of those of you that celebrate such a thing. Met fans, LFGM, out in Houston, got the Yankees hosting the Brewers. So a lot going on. Baseball's underway. And you know what? I know a lot of Ranger fans, you love other sports as well. It's not just hockey. Hockey's number one for most of you, the one you're most passionate about. But yeah, well, listen, Ranger fans like other sports too. And I'm sure you're excited if you're a baseball fan as well, dual fan, hockey and baseball. You're excited. You're getting things underway, fresh beginning, 162 game season. But there's so much time for you to get into baseball, right? Right now, you want to focus on hockey. It's late March. It's almost April. It's almost the Stanley Cup playoffs. You want to be focused on your New York Rangers and the Stanley Cup playoffs and the greatest 2 months of the season, the postseason, the best postseason in all of professional sports, in my opinion. That's what you want to be focusing on right now, and keep track of your Mets, your Yankees, your Kansas City Royals, whoever it is you like. Right? You want to still follow those teams on the periphery, but you really want to be dialed in on the Rangers and on hockey. And the Rangers might be stealing that from you this spring because they may not make the playoffs, right? So many Ranger fans, as I take the temperature and the vibe of the fans and everything, so many of you are just pissed off, so pissed off right now, by the Rangers. You're still holding out hope that they're going to make the playoffs. You still want them to make the playoffs. I'd say for the most part. I mean, there's a contingent, a small contingent, but a contingent that's kind of checked out already on the season. This Ranger team is not a real likable team. And I don't mean it's, personality-wise of the players or whatever, but it's just expectations were so high, right? And they have failed miserably to reach those expectations. And that's, sure, the playoffs are part of it, but just from a compete level standpoint, my God, did you see that Calgary game? Most of that Vancouver game, even the first period in LA the other night. And that was the best of the three games I just mentioned. The Rangers were at their best against LA. That first period was a snooze too. Where were they? 2 shots on goal. So it's not a team that you want to embrace. You want to throw your arms around and love. People felt that way about the Ranger team last year, right? No quit in New York. Throw your arms around that. You love that kind of team. That's not this team this year. There's not a lot to love about this team this year, outside of your goalie and Matt Rempe, your fourth liners, get excited about Brennan Hoffman moving up in the lineup. Those are things you can embrace and enjoy, but there's not a lot of joy about the Rangers. They have really sucked the love out of this season. But yet here they are, still just a point out of a playoff spot. And we're going to get into that. They're out west right now. You got Anaheim and San Jose coming up. So, there it is again, the carrot's in front of you. You know what? That's 4 points you got to take. And guess what? Nobody else is winning games of the competitors for that final playoff spot here. Montreal got on their hot run. Now they're not winning games. Columbus and Detroit have been really, really struggling the past few weeks. Detroit somehow still, within striking distance. Columbus even close,er the Islanders get a chance. Big opportunity. Spotlight on them on Thursday night, on Wednesday night, and their chance, to move into the wild card, move past the Rangers, move past Montreal, and they come up with the dud. Nobody seems to be able to grasp this thing. I was going to say nobody wants to win it, but of course teams want to win. They want to get in the playoffs. They're professional athletes. There's pride and the coaches too. There's fire there. Teams want to win. They don't want to lose. Like, none of these teams seem capable of putting together a stretch and actually winning down the stretch. Like, who's impressed you in this playoff run in the Eastern Conference? Outside of the top teams, and even there, you have your struggling teams. New Jersey Devils, first and foremost, man, are they vulnerable come playoff time? But just the teams in the mix. I mean, the Rangers, come on. Yeah, certainly not the Rangers. They haven't been impressive going for this final playoff spot. Montreal has been, but listen, good young team. Excited about them and their future. But, are they really grabbing hold of this team and pulling away? No, not in the least, even though they are the second wild card right now. Islanders have themselves a nice run to get back in the mix and, then run into a stone wall. And as I talked about Columbus and Detroit, those are two younger teams, Columbus especially, more of the younger, less experienced team that have, made significant gains this season and then just they're like running into the wall here. But you know what? All these teams are still in it. Who knows? Rangers have 10 games left. These other teams have 11 or 12 games left. So, we'll see how it plays out, but it doesn't seem to, I know somebody's going to finish in 8th place. It just doesn't feel like anybody's capable of putting their arms around it and winning and winning enough to earn that 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. And as far as fans putting their arms around this Rangers team, I'm not feeling the love. I don't feel it from the fans. So again, it's MLB opening day and it's going to be cool. It'll be a little diversion. Rangers don't play today. So you can really focus in on your Mets and your Yankees and whoever your favorite team is. Awesome. But I know deep down, Ranger fans want that to be on the back burner. They want to be aware of how the Mets are doing, how the Yankees are doing, but they want to focus on the Rangers. They want a playoff run from the Rangers. Will the Rangers give it to us? Well, we'll see. And we'll be talking about that today. A lot of things to get to. So I'm going to hop around a lot in the podcast today, not try and dwell on one area for too long. But let's start here. John Tortorella, former Ranger coach, fired earlier this morning, Thursday morning, by the Philadelphia Flyers. And really not a surprise based on his comments from a couple nights ago after the Flyers got waxed again. I think they only got, one win in their last 10, 11 games, I think. Only one win in that span. They are really faded down the stretch. And Tort said after the game, and I got it written down here, he said, I'm not really interested in learning how to coach this type of season. Now, that's not a real direct way of saying, hey, fire me. I want out. I've had enough of this, enough of the rebuild. In fact, we've taken steps backward in the rebuild. I don't want to be a part of this. You're trading away Joel Farabee. You trade away Morgan Frost. Scott Lawton's not here anymore. Guys that I actually like to coach. You're leaving me with this mess, this team that's actually worse this year than they were a year ago when they went right down to the wire fighting for a playoff spot. Listen, they ran out of gas like it looks like Columbus and Detroit are doing this year. Philadelphia ran out of gas down the stretch last year and got passed by Washington at the end. But again, you talk about throwing your arms around a team and feeling good about it. Like, all right, I get it. Philly was in a playoff spot for much of the second half of last year, and they just fell short at the end. They couldn't, get it over the goal line at the end. But there was still a lot to like. They still way exceeded expectations in their rebuild at that point. This year, big step back. Even though there's some good building blocks, some good young building blocks, Matvei Michkov, I think is going to be a star in this league, but I get it. Torts is frustrated. It's not going as well this year as it did last year. The rebuild seems to have taken a step back. You have terrible goaltending. You can't put the puck in the net, and then you trade those 3 veterans like I talked about. This is not really interested in learning how to coach in this type of season. That was the quote, right? So you have to go read between the lines and everything. sure sounded to me like a guy that just wanted out. Well, if that's the case, Flyers did him a favor today and fired John Tortorella. So, of course, what happens on my social media timeline? People start getting to me left and right, and there's so many of you. I can't even list everybody. I'm not going to shortchange people, mention some, not mention others. But enough of you got to me and overwhelmingly said, Rangers got to bring him back. Bring back Torts. We want Tortorella to coach this team. Fire Lavi, get Torts in here. And here's the thing. I know that's an emotional response. And, there were some great times with John Tortorella as head coach here. He didn't leave on the best of terms. Terms isn't even the right word. I don't think there was a great vibe about Torts when he finally was let go. There were some people that were pretty pissed, but most people thought he had run his course by the end of the 2013 season, by the end of the playoffs. Remember those, just ill-conceived comments he made about Carl Hagelin and Hagelin's lack of skill and not playing on the power play in the postseason against Boston and, whatever. Again, he kind of hung himself there. And then, the players went in, talked to Glenn Sather and Jeff Gorton and said, hey, we got to make a coaching change here. Len Vigneault comes in, the player-friendly coach replacing the taskmaster, yada, yada, yada. The history sense. So it didn't end great with Torts here. But listen, if Peter Laviolette gets fired this offseason, I do not see the Rangers trying to find the next great young head coach. Washington hired Spencer Carberry last year. Hotshot, minor league, successful coach. I don't see the Rangers doing that. They kind of had their guy within their own system with Chris Knobloch at Hartford. And, of course, he goes to Edmonton and helps lead them to the Stanley Cup final last year. I just don't see the Rangers going down that road. If you replace Peter Laviolette, a Stanley Cup champion, with a team that, even with everything that's gone on this season, is still a win-now team, I don't see them with their owner and with Chris Drury. If he fires Laviolette, this is going to be his third coaching hire in 4 years. Guess what? You may not get another one. So if you fire Peter Laviolette, again, Stanley Cup winning coach, guy that led you to the President's Trophy just a year ago, if you feel that he's lost the room, the team doesn't play for him, whatever the case might be, and you fire him, I don't think you're replacing him with a good, young, talented coach from the minors or somebody who's been an assistant or an associate in the NHL that's ready to take that next step. You probably go down the route of the veteran coach again, because this isn't your first coaching hire. This would be your third in 4 years. So who's in that mix right now? The most controversial choice, the guy with the most Stanley Cup rings, is Joel Quenneville. That's going to be a tough one with his track record, with what happened in Chicago, with that, obviously that terrible incident, that got him suspended from the NHL for years. And, flip side of this is, I know Quenneville wants back in to coach in the NHL, but does he want it to be in the white hot spotlight of Broadway, Madison Square Garden, New York Rangers? Eesh. Maybe you want to go to somewhere a little bit more out of the spotlight and help build up a team, and maybe lay low a little bit, and not have to face those ugly, hard questions that he's going to have to face, probably repeatedly from the type media that New York is. But all that said, so Joel Quenneville, obviously his name would be out there. Mike Sullivan is the guy that Chris Drury really wants to coach this team, but he's under long-term contract to the Penguins. I know the Penguins are going nowhere, and Sully's in a tough spot there. He's really committed to that group. Again, has the long-term contract. And you just get, Pittsburgh, why would your ownership, let him out of his contract to go coach the division rival? A team that's ahead of you in the standings, that could bounce back next season and make a run in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Why would you allow your coach to go there to be that guy? with that organization, with your rival. You wouldn't. So, I don't think Sully is an option. John Tortorella is an option right now. And I think it's worth thinking about. Now, listen, when I worked for the Rangers, when I did their website, I was their in-house beat reporter, all that. I was there when Tortorella became head coach. And of course, the captain of the Rangers at the time was Chris Drury. So they were together for the better part of two plus seasons, working together. And I've been racking my brain trying to come up with something where I could say definitively say something about their relationship. All I can say is on the periphery, Torch was, really supportive of Drury as the captain. Certainly loved the way Drury played. He did a lot of the right things on the ice. I know he was a diminished player at that point because of injuries. He wasn't the offensive threat that he had been earlier in his career, but Drew still did the right things. He prepared himself the right way. He was a hardworking guy. He was smart defensively. And he was a good leader in that room too. And Torch appreciated that. I think he has a high level of appreciation for Drury. So I think from his end, working for Drury, I think there could be a fit there. I think there's a respect there. So what I don't know, because Chris, even as a player, being around him every day, really held things close to the vest, which shouldn't be a surprise because that's the way he is now as general manager too. But he would hold things close to the vest. So I cannot definitively say what his relationship from his point of view was with John Tortorella as the head coach. I do not believe that there was any negative between them, especially because, the coach was so supportive of Drury. But Drury played under John Tortorella, so he knows what it's like. Now, listen, Torts has evolved a lot since those early days, in 2007, 2008, 2009, those first few years when he was coach of the New York Rangers. He's evolved a lot, and I think he really turned the corner after that terrible one season in Vancouver. I think he's reinvented himself a little bit, Columbus and Philadelphia, and to his credit, did a hell of a job in those two spots. But I think he's, lack of a better word, grown up, matured as a coach. He's still going to have his Torts moments. He's going to still have his flip answers. He's still going to, war with the media a little bit. But he's mellowed. He's learned some lessons along the way here. So he's not the same guy that he was, whatever it is, 15, 16 years ago, that he was the first time through when Drury played for him. So you have that. I think Torts is a viable option if you fire John Tortorella. Peter Laviolette. I'm not saying do it, but I think you'd have to consider him. By the way, total side note, maybe my favorite Rangers team that I've covered this team for 30 years. Maybe my favorite team to go out and watch night in, night out. They weren't always exciting, but man, I just loved how hard they played. Of course, had the king in net, Lundqvist, at the height of his powers, 2011, 2012. Won 51 games that season, 109 points. Right? It almost came out of nowhere. Like you thought they would be good that season. You didn't think they'd be that good. But man, did they win over the fan base that season with how hard they played. The blocked shots, the physical nature of their game, not a ton of offensive talent, but man, did they sell out to win games. Now, it cost them because by the time they got to the conference final against the Devils, they were spent. But they got to the conference final. That group talent-wise probably wasn't that good to get that far. But they did. That's what John Tortorella can do. Look how he pushed just Philadelphia last year. That was not a good team last year. Look at how far he pushed to them. That team almost made the playoffs. Should they have even been in conversation for a playoff spot? Probably not, but they were. Now this will be a different Ranger group. More veterans to deal with. Fewer younger kids. So it's a little bit of a different vibe than Philly or even Columbus was. That's probably more what Torts wants now. He wants another ring. He wants a team that he thinks he can win a ring with. Would Chris Jury trust him to be that next head coach? I still believe that Peter Laviolette's going to coach this team this year. Now, Rangers, 10 games left. If they go 3-7 down the stretch and end up 6 points out of the playoff spot, maybe that's not the case. I think they can still sneak into the playoffs. But even if they fall short, Laviolette, it's just a gut thing. I'm not saying he should come back, not saying he shouldn't. My gut feeling is that he comes back as coach. But anyway, so I got Tortorella in the mix. I want to hear from you. Make sure to hit me up on social media over at X, at Jim Cerny. Send me your comments, your opinions, what you think about it. We're going to have a story about it. We're going to get everybody from Forever Blue Shirts, from the staff, to kind of write a paragraph or two. Thumbs up, thumbs down. If you fire Peter Laviolette, do you hire John Tortorella? And we'll be posting that Thursday or Friday at Forever Blue Shirts. Okay, we mentioned how the team's out on the West Coast. The crappy homestand behind them. The one game they did win, they had 12 shots on goal. Kevin Lankinen allows 4 goals on 11 shots. There's an empty netter. Somehow Vancouver didn't win that game. Somehow. Yeah. Thank you, Igor Shesterkin. Didn't win the game. But hey, Rangers got that 2 points this time of year. Who cares how you get them? Get the points. Played better in LA after that dreadful first period in which, LA, it was men against boys. The Rangers were trying. I thought the compete level was there. But the Kings were just so much better than the Rangers were in that first 20 minutes. And you know what? If those teams played in the playoffs, that big, heavy, fast skating, heavy forechecking team like the Kings, that's exactly the type team that would take the Rangers out, I think, in 4 or 5 games in the postseason. Now, of course, don't have to worry about the Kings. If you worry about the Kings, you're going to face them in the Stanley Cup final. And if you're in the Stanley Cup final, then this entire narrative that we've been talking about all season has completely changed. And you would sign up for it. Even if you get smoked by the Kings in the final, you would sign up for it right about now, right? Because there's a good chance that you're not making the playoffs this year. So in any case, a lot going on, with the Rangers out west. We see Brennan Othmann getting a chance in the top 6. I like it. I thought he fit in nicely with Trocheck and Panarin. I want to see a bigger sample size. I think that's really important down the stretch. Make the playoffs, don't make the playoffs. I think you really need to find out about your 2021 first round pick. I know people love Brett Berard. I like him too. And I know people love Matt Rempe. I like him too. Sure, their development is important too. But we're talking about 2 levels of players here. You're with development, right? Finding out about Brennan Othmann is more important than finding out about Brett Berard and Matt Rempe, who I really believe are, the bottom 6 guys. And that's no knock on Brett Berard, who I think could be a big spark plug. And I love what he's brought this season. And he's got, he's got scoring talent too. But to me, on a good team, he's not a top 6 guy. Like, he's on your third line if you're a good team. Brennan Othmann could and probably should be a top 6 guy. Now, maybe he starts out as a third line player, kind of like how Will Cooley did last year, and then let him progress from there. But in the big picture, he's a top 6 guy. Start learning about him right now. So I like that they have him with Panarin and Trocheck. Hope it continues against Anaheim and San Jose. Listen, here's all I have to say about those final 2 games of the road trip in California. 4 points. That's it. No ifs, ands, or buts. 4 points are there. You got to take them if you're the New York Rangers. Go and get them. Plain and simple, cut and dried. I don't care how you do it. Would be helpful if Zibanejad, woke up again, got the offensive game going again. He is, right? Had a nice 6-week run after JT Miller arrived, and now, Alexis Lafreniere, 1 goal in his last 20, though, he's picked up some assists recently, and he's very spotty. There are moments where you're like, there we go. And then, then there are moments they didn't get shots on goal. Shoot the puck, get to the net. Drives me crazy. But again, kind of like Othmann, you got to keep running him out there. He's still 23, coming off a good year last year. Keep working with this kid. You don't want to lose a guy like that, lose a talent like that. So speaking of young guys, Rangers brought in a couple players following their collegiate seasons. They signed center Noah Laba and defenseman Jackson Dorrington to their entry-level contracts in the last week plus. Laba, how about him? Scores a shorthanded goal in his pro debut. He's on an ATO with the Hartford Wolfpack. Scores a shorthanded goal 8 minutes into his first pro game. He's a guy that could be a comer quickly. You know, Rangers don't have a lot of depth down the middle in the organization. Now, true, at the NHL level, they can run JT Miller, Vincent Trocheck, and Mika Zibanejad at you. But, you know, I think Rangers look at it in bigger picture. If Zibanejad's here next season and they can find a good 3C, I think they like Zibanejad on the wing here. But for right now, you know, you have those three guys at the NHL level. Sam Carrick is a good fourth line center as well. But boy, after them, there's a big drop off in the organization. And that is a hole Noah Laba can fill quickly. You know, he played 3 years at Colorado College. Really good two-way player. You know, from people I've spoken with, really good two-way player, good face-off guy, high character guy. Plays a 200-foot game, power play, penalty kill. Scored 20 goals as a sophomore at Colorado College. Had some injuries as a junior this year, but lots to like there. Plus, he's already 21 years old. Now he's getting his feet wet in the pro game. Hopefully gets in 10, 11, 12 games at Hartford. Doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs. But if they can make it into the playoffs, he gets some extra games in the postseason. All of this is good. Really good for his development, because he could come to camp next year, depending on what the Rangers do or don't do with their roster in the offseason, possibly fighting for a 3C job. Now, we'll see. Probably you start him in Hartford and let him, you know, marinate down there for a little bit. I don't think it's out of the question that he plays for a spot next season, but we'll see. Jackson Dorrington is more of a project. 20-year-old defenseman, played at Northeastern. In fact, his Northeastern squad, they knocked Gabe Perreault and Drew Fortescue and Boston College out in the Hockey East postseason tournament. Now here's BC, the top seed, and they got waxed by Northeastern. So Jackson Dorrington got a little laugh on his new future Ranger teammates, and I call them new because Dorrington, of course, came over in the JT Miller trade from the Vancouver Canucks on January 31st. So Rangers get him signed to his entry-level contract. Similar to Laba, he goes to Hartford, signed an ATO. So he begins his pro career as well down there. So we'll keep an eye on him. Again, the Rangers could use some good young prospects on defense. You know, they traded away Victor Mancini in that Canuck trade. So, you know, Dorrington, you know, we'll see if Fortescue will turn pro after his sophomore season completes with BC, who they begin the NCAA hockey tournament on Thursday as a top seed in their region. You know, they're expected to get to the Frozen Four. We'll see, you know, where they end up. But, you know, even if they go all the way and they win, we get into early April, then decision time for Gabe Perreault and Drew Fortescue, couple 23 draft picks. You know, will they turn pro? Hunch is, and most people you talk to believe that Perreault will turn pro. Say that 5 times fast. Perreault turns pro after the season. And of course, Rangers super excited about that. Talk about top 6 guys, good young guys on their entry-level contracts, you know, hopefully playing in your top 6 sooner rather than later. Fortescue, 50-50 response, and maybe even 60-40, 65-35, that he'll go back for his junior season at Boston College. But, you know, he's a good young defenseman that's getting close, almost on the cusp of getting to Hartford, but there aren't a lot of them. So that's why we'll keep an eye on Jackson Dorrington, keep an eye on Perreault and Fortescue and BC's run. Listen, Perreault and Fortescue know about winning, right? They helped the United States win consecutive World Junior Championships in 24 and 25. You know, now they got a whack at it. They went to the Frozen Four last year with BC. Now they get another whack at it this season as well. So good luck to them, and good luck to Laba and Dorrington. Congratulations to them as well. And a real quick thought, talking about former Ranger defenseman prospects and draft picks. How about Dylan McElrath, the Undertaker, lands himself a 2-year contract with the Washington Capitals. Good on Dylan. Here's a guy, right? I mean, his crazy, unfortunate history. And he's only played 86 NHL games since the Rangers made him the number 10 overall pick, selecting him in the first round of the 2010 NHL draft. And it seems like his name is forever tied with Cam Fowler, who the Anaheim Ducks selected 2 picks later and has played now 1,033 games in the NHL, currently with the St. Louis Blues, but longtime defenseman for the Anaheim Ducks. So the Rangers didn't get Cam Fowler. They did get Dylan McElrath, a guy who was, his type of defenseman was kind of aging out of the game, the way hockey, the NHL was trending at that point. It's kind of a dinosaur at that point. The big lumbering, stayed home, cross-checking, drop the gloves fighting defenseman. He did some things well. He's tough. He's rugged. He turns into a really good leader, captain in the minor leagues, a 2-time Calder Trophy or Calder Cup winner. Excuse me, not Calder Trophy. Calder Trophy would have been good. Calder Cup winner with Hershey in the Washington Capitals system. In any case, he's found a niche. He's found his home with the Capitals organization. He helped really bring along some of their good young talent on that team as a leader in Hershey. And when needed, he got called up, played okay, third pair role when needed in Washington. Well, he's been on the roster, the NHL roster, the entire season this year. Hadn't played a game in the American League, and he hasn't played in 38 games. He's been a healthy scratch in 38 games since December 23rd. But yet he's so valued in that organization that he got a little bit of a raise, and he signed a 2-year, $1.6 million contract with the Washington Capitals on Thursday. You know what? Good for him. For all the crap that's been dealt at him, and deservedly so. He shouldn't have been the number 10 overall pick. That's not his fault. Go blame, Gordy Clark and Jeff Gorton for that. Glenn Sather. It's their fault. Not his fault. But anyway, great guy. Got to know him really well during my Ranger days. So I'm super, super happy for him. Hopefully get a little, a little base, where he can, stay with that team as a reserve defenseman. A really good team, by the way. The team with the best record and most points in the NHL right now. A team that signed Jacob Chikrin the other day. And I wrote about this, and this is kind of where I'll wrap things up today. I wrote about this the other day. You can see the article at Forever Blueshirts. It was always a pipe dream. Jacob Chikrin to the Rangers, right? And the Coyotes were shopping him. The Rangers' name was in the mix. Ranger fans wanted this guy. Good two-way defenseman. Certainly could provide a lot offensively from the left side. Then gets traded to Ottawa. Then Ottawa. They looked to trade him last summer. The Rangers have some interest in him, but, obviously, nothing ever happened. He goes to Washington. He's had himself a hell of a season. Finally has stayed completely healthy. Best year of his NHL career. Good on him. Cashes in $9 million worth of cashing in per year on an 8-year deal. 8 years, $72 million. Now, listen, I like Jacob Chikrin. I would like Jacob Chikrin on the New York Rangers, especially a healthy Jacob Chikrin playing at this level of confidence that he's playing with in Washington right now. $9 million. Yeah, that probably would have priced the Rangers out of Jacob Chikrin sweepstakes if he had reached UFA status this upcoming summer. Rangers have to clear out a lot of coin, to sign somebody for that. If that's what it was going to take, to get him. On the open market, maybe it would have been more. The competition, maybe he would have gotten even more. Anyway, I like Jacob Chikrin. Good for him as well. But I wrote a story about who are the fits now in free agency of UFA defensemen if the Rangers feel like, oh, our defense, not quite there yet. I know that Carson Soucy, they acquire him and he still has a year to go on his deal. And then they re-signed Will Borgen, or not re-signed him. They signed him to a 5-year deal. They signed Urho Vakanainen to a 2-year deal. They already have Adam Fox, Braden Schneider under contract. Keandre Miller is a restricted free agent with arbitration rights. Zach Jones is a restricted free agent. So you see that mix, and I say it's still not good enough. Like, watch them. Watch them on a night-to-night basis. That group's not good enough. Okay, Jacob Trouba's out of there. The whipping boy's gone. Will Borgen, you'd certainly argue that that's a better guy at half the amount of money that Trouba was getting. I still don't think that defense score is good enough. So I went through the list of UFA defensemen. And some guys I listed because they're the bigger names, but they're not going to be a fit. Aaron Ekblad's not coming to the Rangers, okay? I don't think Ivan Provorov is going to be the guy. I would love Vladislav Gavrikov. Gavrikov. Probably going to be too much coin. So I put in some realistic targets as well. See what you think. Let me know. Hit me up at X at Jim Cerny. Dante Fabro to play the right side, right? Probably going to be pretty affordable. I don't think you're going to break the bank on Dante Fabro, but he has resurrected his career with the Columbus Blue Jackets this season. He's been real good. You could put him in that second pairing on the right side. Will Borgen could be your third D, or whoever's playing better, flip them up. One's second pair, one's third pair. And then that's if you believe Braden Schneider can play his offside on a consistent basis. Play the left side. Put him with Adam Fox. What do you think? You like that? It's worth a shot. Or do you put him on the second pair, left side, if you believe Keandre Miller should be in that top pairing with Adam Fox? He's played some good hockey with Adam Fox in that top pairing. Just a thought. That's a better defense core, right? Than what you got now. Vakanainen then, becomes your 7th D. My gut tells me Zach Jones is going to be traded this offseason. But okay, even if Zach Jones doesn't get traded, he or Vakanainen's your 7th D, assuming Carson Soucy is in, the top 6 on the left side. So that was one thought. And then sticking to the left side then, looking for an affordable option, somebody I'd like, not commit to long-term, but Matt Grzelcyk is the guy that I like. And he's having a heck of a season under the radar with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Two-way guy. He's put up good numbers there. Solid defensively. Pretty good underlying numbers. Again, not an all-world defenseman. He wouldn't be, a top pair guy for me. But I don't know. Do you feel more comfortable with him on the blue line than Vakanainen? Maybe even Soucy? Put him on the left side, keep Schneider on the right side then, keep him on his natural side. Just a thought. Just some of the things that I was pontificating on, and there are other players on that list as well. I don't think the Rangers are done remaking their defense. I think they're looking for another top 4 guy. Maybe not a superstar guy. They don't have the money right now available for a superstar guy or the top end, Gavrikov, Provorov. They don't have enough money right now available for that. Now, they could free up some money. We'll see how that goes. But just some things to kind of think about. Think about the coaching situation too. If Peter Laviolette is fired, do you want John Tortorella? That's where we started all this. I want to hear your takes. Hit me up on X at Jim Cerny, and we'll continue this conversation on next week. Again, thanks for tuning in to the Rink Rap Podcast here at Forever Blueshirts. Really appreciate your support. It's a lot of fun. Maybe we'll bring somebody on to bounce ideas off of next week. I love having the guests, but I also love getting so much on my chest to get off. So I love doing that in these sessions of Rink Rap. And that's what it is. It's like therapy session. Let me get this off my chest. Let me hear what you got to say. Respond to me. Hit me up on X at Jim Cerny. And of course, also follow us at Forever Blue Shirts. That's Forever Blue Shirts. And of course, hit us up on the website as well, foreverblueshirts.com. Thanks for tuning in. Big weekend of Rangers hockey. Big one. 4 points. There we are, back to 4 again. No ifs, ands, or buts. Don't care how you get them. You have to get 4 points. You have to fly home from San Jose banking 4 points by beating the Ducks and beating the Sharks this weekend. We'll talk about it next week. And hey, like I said, if you celebrate, happy opening day of the MLB season. Enjoy it, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.